Well, hello, glorious people of the interwebs, and welcome back to Red Dead Online. Today we're going to be doing another podcast-style video where we discuss the status of Red Dead Online and a lot of the negative sentiment that is currently going around in the community. A lot of people are upset that the summer update has not come yet, and we're only, like 2 weeks into summer so far. So there's still quite a large time frame for this update to come out in. I'm still holding out on July 16th being the day that we finally get it, although we may not get it until late July or even August. So there's quite a bit of time before the update could actually come, but there is a lot of negative sentiment for Red Dead Online right now. Some of it's warranted, and some of it is just sheer impatience, and I understand both sides. You know, I feel the same way at times. I love Red Dead Redemption 2, and Red Dead Online has had its ups and downs, but at the end of the day, when there is new content, I really enjoy Red Dead Online. That being said, there really isn't a lot to do, and I know Rockstar has been doing their best to get content out as fast as possible while making sure that the content is good quality. You know, the last thing that Rockstar can do right now is rush content and then have it be bad quality. The spring update, there were so many server issues that people were barely even able to play, and that was really bad. And I imagine that Rockstar wants to make sure that does not happen again, and a lot of it does come down to the servers that they're using for Red Dead Online. They are not good. Maybe they're not... It really could be two things. Maybe just Red Dead Redemption Online is just takes a lot of processing power, a lot of RAM to run, and thus the servers aren't really able to handle it that well. Maybe it's coding, maybe it's just the servers themselves. We don't really know, and there's no official way to really tell unless Rockstar was like, this is the reason everything's gone to hell, when there's a lot of people playing. But unfortunately, I don't think that's ever going to be the case, but we can just hold out hope that hopefully over time, the server stability will improve. And it has improved over the past couple of weeks, but I don't know if that's necessarily things that have been fixed or people just aren't really playing right now. And we have seen a pretty sizable dip in the player base over the past few weeks. And you can tell because there's significantly less players in sessions. There are far more trolls. That's because there's nothing left for them to do. And on the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at the amount of content, you can get through most of the content. And by content, I mean like story missions, stranger missions, and stuff like that. You can get through most of that in a solid day, maybe two if you're taking your sweet time. You can get through all of the content available in Red Dead Online in about a day or two. And that is, it's not very good for an online game. That is not a lot of content. That being said, obviously you're not going to be able to get all of the equipment, you're not going to be able to get leveled up, and you're not going to get access to weapons and ability cards in that amount of time, but the actual content that you have to level up to get all of that stuff is very small, and hopefully that's going to be changed in the summer update, and that is where a lot of the frustration is coming in. Yes, the game is really enjoyable when there's new content to play, but when you burn through it so quickly, and that some of that's on us, and a lot of it is on just not having enough content to actually play, that it becomes extremely repetitive, and people are getting very frustrated from that. They want different types of content to do. They don't want to solely have to be stuck into playing PvP modes all the time. And I understand all this, because a lot of the variety in the game is in the Showdown series, and a lot of the Showdown modes aren't very good. You can't customize your own playlists, and you're kind of stuck at whatever the game wants to make you play. And that can be very frustrating for those that like certain game modes and may not even get to play in that game mode during the time that they get to play during the day, and that alone can be frustrating. So when you find content that you want to do in the game, sometimes if you don't have a lot of time to play during the day, you don't even get to do it. And so I do understand where a lot of this frustration is coming from, but I also understand the other side of it where, you know, the game is evolving, it's growing, we're slowly getting more stuff, and for people that are joining the game now, there's a lot for them to do. And I do highly recommend starting now, and that way when the jobs do come out, you've got some money, you've got some levels, and you're not going to be very far behind. For new players, there's a lot to do in Red Dead Online, as far as like getting leveled up and ability cards and stuff like that. I mean, you'll plow through a lot of the content, but at least the game is significantly better than it was in beta, and that improvement is really what we want to see. When it was going through beta, I did talk about a lot where the game was getting worse during the beta, and that you can tell when you look at Google Trends and you Google Red Dead Redemption 2, you can just see it just completely tank. Like Red Dead Online, Red Dead Redemption 2, anything you Google with Red Dead Online and Google Trends, it just absolutely tanks, and it gets worse and worse week after week, month after month, and that's because in the beta, nothing was getting better. They were nerfing everything, and it was a really, really rough experience. Thankfully, when it came out of beta and we got the spring update, a lot of that changed. They made a ton of improvements to be able to make more money, more effectively, quicker. They improved stranger missions. They got rid of a lot of the garbage ones and put in a lot of better style stranger missions, new strangers. They brought in a couple more story missions, which I'm a little sad about. There wasn't a lot of them. But in the grand scheme of things, the spring update came out, and you can see where Rockstar is headed for the future. And I do believe that in the long run, Red Dead Redemption Online is going to be very good. I'd say in about a year from now, it's going to be a completely different game than it is now. And I believe 2 years from now, it's going to be even more different than in a year from now. So I do have a lot of things to look forward to in Red Dead Online, and I think you guys should as well. But I want to get to a lot of the negativity. I do read all the comments, and I read through, Rockstar's tweets and stuff like that. Basically, anywhere there's something Red Dead Online, I'm looking through the comments to see, what people are saying, and the community is heavily divided. I'd say about 50% of the comments are people saying that, they've given up on Red Dead Online. They're going to quit. They're not going to come back. Things are taking too long to improve. There's nothing to do. And that they've just given up. They're going to stop playing and never come back. Now, I'd say about 50% of those comments are just people expressing their frustration and trying to get Rockstar to listen, to try and maybe provoke them into bringing out content. Because I have seen a lot of those comments on my channel as well, and then a couple weeks later, something new comes out, and they're commenting how great the game is. It's just one of those things where they get frustrated and they hate on the game, they hate on the developers, and they hate on everything, and then they get something they like and they praise it. It's just kind of like the ebb and flow of any real online game. Unfortunately, on some instances, they are correct. There is not a ton of stuff to do. And even when you're trying to find, I really wish Rockstar would allow more ability to RP in the game. I think that would bring a lot of life to it, and I think that's what they have plans for in the future. I think they see the success that GTA RP has had the past couple months. I mean, it was, for a while, the most viewed game once again on Twitch, and that was thanks to modders creating the style of gameplay where people can kind of do whatever they want and create their own life. And Rockstar has really expressed an interest in making online that type of game where you can evolve your character and create your life inside this game. Now we just need the stuff to be able to be added to the game to do that. Be able to own businesses, make your own farm and do all this kind of stuff that you can do in an RP game, but be able to do it in Red Dead Online. And I think if Rockstar is able to make that happen in Red Dead Redemption Online, it could be a significantly better experience than GTA Online, and maybe even GTA RP, if they're able to do it in a similar fashion, because this world is really set up to do RP in a really interesting and fun way. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to. Now, the jobs update, one of the things I wanted to touch base on is, can Red Dead Online survive having these small... I hate to say small updates, because the spring update, it wasn't necessarily small, but it wasn't necessarily big either. In the grand scheme of things, the spring update, it fixed a lot of the issues in Red Dead Online. It didn't necessarily add a ton of content. It did add, over the course of 2 months, quite a few showdown modes, but I don't think the game is going to survive on showdown modes. There needs to be less of an emphasis, words are hard and the struggle is real, on showdown modes, and more of an emphasis on evolving the world that we live in, allowing us to be able to maybe even build our own house, even if they need to add land or territories. Those of you that have been watching my videos on getting outside the boundaries, there's tons of land out here that can be used to allow us to create our own homesteads. I think it would be great. Not only could we add them within the world, I know that would take us out of like the canon of Red Dead Redemption 2, because if we're building our own houses and making our own farms, then that stuff would have to also exist in Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Redemption 1 if they wanted online to stick strictly to the canon of both of these games. And I think maybe that would not... let me phrase this properly. I don't think online needs to stick to the canon. I think they would have a lot more freedom to add all this stuff where we can build our own houses and, you know, create our own homesteads and farms and stuff like that, if they don't worry about sticking to canon. Because it's not like online is going to play through any of the story of Red Dead Redemption 1 or Red Dead Redemption 2. Treat it kind of like Undead Nightmare, where it's, in an alternate universe of Red Dead Redemption 1, where this happens. I'm looking for some ducks for some animal fat. There we go. Oh, God. Oh, my God. A duck happens, and I'm switching weapons like a noob. Oh, God. I got one freaking duck. I am a hot mess today. I'm running around this area because I'm trying to make explosive ammo for the live stream tonight, and things just aren't working out for me today. But yeah, I would treat it like Undead Nightmare, so that way they could freely add and create so much more stuff without having to worry about the canon of, you know, of the story mode. Now, I don't know... Hey, it got level 87. I don't know if that's actually a worry for Rockstar or not, but I know people want to be able to have their own farm and be farmers, build their own house, do all sorts of stuff, you know, create a drug ring inside of their farm or whatever they want to do. I feel like if people would really enjoy that. There's just not a lot of farms to be able to do that. Like, you could buy this and maybe renovate it and create your own farm, but I just don't know how well that would work in comparison to maybe either you're adding land or allowing us to build out in certain areas. I don't know, just some things to think about. Now, back to, can Red Dead Online survive these quote-unquote small updates? I do think that the summer update needs to be a large update. The spring update fixed the game. It brought it out of beta. It fixed a lot of the issues people were having. Unfortunately, none of that was really server stability stuff that was fixed, but the gameplay itself is far more enjoyable than it was in the beta, but on the grand scheme of things, it did not add a ton of content. Everybody was basically able to finish all the content added in the spring update in a couple hours. They added a few stranger missions and a few missions. On the grand scheme of content, like, that you can play and level up with, that was it. And then the game modes, and then obviously the Sadie Adler and Black Bell a couple, was it a week later or 2 weeks later? I think it was a week later that we got those. But then you do those 3 times each, and that's it. The content was over. That was the new content. And then we had the drip feed of new game modes, and that was about it. So on the grand scheme of things, if that keeps end up happening, where we get like a couple missions and then a couple strangers that give us a couple of the same style stranger missions, I think Red Dead Online will gradually die out. Now, if these jobs do involve a ton of content to where you can play them and not feel incredibly repetitive after, you know, 10, 20 hours, and then you can, when one job finally starts getting repetitive, you can move on to another one and not have it feel exactly the same as the other one. The stranger missions, they feel exactly the same. Basically, you have the good stranger missions and the bad stranger missions. The good stranger missions, basically each mission giver gives you the same missions. You're just talking to a different person. The bad stranger missions, same thing. So you go to a different person and it feels exactly the same, so it becomes incredibly repetitive. Now, if the jobs are just like fetch requests, like go to this location and pick up this, and then bring it back here, and that's all it is, it's gonna be incredibly boring very quickly. And especially if all 3 jobs play exactly the same, it's not gonna hold the attention of the community, especially when the community is frustrating and wanting more content, the summer update really, really needs to bring the content that they can play for a month or 2 months without becoming exceedingly boring. Like, right now, I still love Red Dead Online. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, that I hate the game or anything, but when I'm looking at the community response to how Red Dead Online is going, I can see the frustration, and I feel bad because I love this game and I want it to succeed so bad. So bad. Not only because, you know, I play it on the channel for a living, but because I thoroughly enjoy playing it. I can always move on to another game, especially because we've got tons and tons of good stuff coming out in the future, but I love playing this. Even if I played other games, I'm going to still always provide content for Red Dead Online and Red Dead Redemption 2 when there's updates and stuff like that. But I want the game to succeed. I don't want it to just slowly die out. And I'm really hoping that the summer update brings a lot of content. I'm hoping it's not just like they release the 3 jobs and then those 3 jobs have like 3 missions that you can do just over and over and over. If that ends up being the case, Red Dead Online stands a solid chance of losing a large amount of player base, because every update brings back people. That is just what happens. All the people that have said they're never going to play again, some of those, the majority of those, are going to come back and try out the content. Now, if you put a sour taste in their mouth after a bunch of times of getting them excited and then being disappointed, each time you're going to lose people coming back. And you can see that on Google Trends where, you know, massive dip for the Red Dead Online beta over the course of a couple months. Then the spring updates, you get about a half of that back, and then an even more substantial dip after that. And so each time you're gaining a little bit of your player base and then losing them relatively quickly, and that's not what we want to see for a healthy game. And I mean, when we go into, I mean, it's early in the afternoon right now. We got 22 people in this session, and most of the sessions throughout the day, they average about 22 to 24 people right now, whereas, you know, a couple weeks ago, it was averaging, you know, 28 to 32, filling up the sessions and stuff like that. So it's not like we're losing a ton of people, and there's still a lot of people that thoroughly enjoy playing. And a lot of those people are going to be the ones that just love being in the environment. You know, wandering around, fishing, hunting, just playing the game as a wilderness survival type of person. So, long story short, I do have high hopes for Red Dead Online. I just want to see the content last a little bit longer because it's going to hold the player base. And if you can hold the player base and keep them engaged and having things to do, it's going to do... Not only are you going to keep your player base, but you're going to reduce the amount of griefing and trolling, which is preventing the other half of the community that actually enjoys playing the game and going around and hunting and fishing and just being in the world. It prevents them from enjoying the game too, because there's not content to keep the other people that just love the shiny things in check. So right now, that's why we're seeing a massive increase in griefers and trolls and whatever you want to call them right now, is because they're bored. There's nothing to do. And for the people that have been playing, you know, nonstop since the beta, I mean, they just plow through content so quick, there's just really nothing really to engage them. Once you get past level 94, there's really, truthfully, no reason to play the game because you don't want to level up. You've already purchased everything. So hopefully, you know, the jobs will help that. Having special things within the jobs. Now, even if you can unlock special stuff through achievements, then at least keep people occupied doing certain tasks to unlock the things that they don't have. So there's a lot of stuff Rockstar can do in the future, and I'm hoping that they start doing multiple things on multiple fronts. That way, there ends up being quite a bit of content. So there's so many things I want to talk about and so little time to really be able to talk about them. I do a lot of this conversation stuff during live streams. So if you really want to ask questions or, you know, be part of the discussion, feel free to join in during live streams, because I always discuss this stuff through that. But there's just so much I want to talk about, but I just saw that we're already at like 20 minutes and I've been rambling on all this time. Yeah, I want to see the summer update have a lot of content. I'm going to enjoy it regardless, but I want to see the community enjoy it as well. You know, I don't want to read through the comments and see people just crapping on the game constantly and, you know, frustrated. And I'm sure Rockstar feels the same way. So hopefully I'm crossing my fingers that the summer update brings a lot of content and can actually fully engage people for the 2 months before the next update. Because that seems to be the cycle they're going through right now is they release an update. I'm expecting July 16th to be the summer update, and then they drip feed for a month, and then there's a month of kind of like barrenness, which is where all the griefing and trolling starts happening. If we can start getting people engaged through the 2-month period until the next major update, which is going to be the fall update, most likely, because that's the trend they're going with, then Red Dead Online is going to be starting to get a lot better, because if you can start creating a backlog of things that players need to do, then they're going to enjoy the game better. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.